When we think about the absolute worst moments in history, we tend to imagine they just exploded out of nowhere. But that's almost never how it works. It's usually a slow burn. It starts with small things, things you might even brush off. So today, let's pull back the curtain and really unpack the playbook for how hate escalates. Okay, take a look at this picture. It's from 1928. Just a normal family reunion, right? You can almost hear the laughter. Look closely, you can see the personalities shining through. There's always one person goofing off in the back, right? You've got the proud parents, the teenagers trying so hard to look cool. These are just people, neighbors, friends, family, full of life.
So that brings us to the big, terrifying question. How did they become targets? How does a whole society just turn on its own people? Its neighbors, people they went to school with, people they grew up with. That's really the core question we're going to dig into.
And the answer, which is so important to grasp, is that it wasn't a sudden switch. It was a process, a slow, deliberate climb up a ladder. Think of it like that, an escalation ladder. Each rung you climb makes the next one feel not just possible, but normal, maybe even necessary. So, this is the playbook we're going to break down. It has 4 basic rungs. First, it starts with something that seems harmless, words and jokes. From there, it gets codified into laws and segregation. The next step up? Organized violence. And that leads to the very top, the final horrifying rung, total erasure. All right, let's start at the very bottom, rung 1. We can call this the just a joke phase. This is the seed. It all starts here, with words. Words that are designed to, test the waters, see what people will let slide, to make the unthinkable start to sound normal. And this isn't a new idea. More than 100 years before any of this happened, a poet named Heinrich Heine wrote something that is just bone-chillingly accurate. He said, "Where they burn books, they will also ultimately burn people."
And boom, here it is, that prophecy becoming a terrifying reality. This is Berlin, 1933. You're seeing Nazi-led students burning 25,000 books. And here's what's so critical to understand. They weren't just burning books by Jewish authors. They were burning books about peace, about democracy, about science. So this was bigger than targeting one group. It was an all-out assault on ideas themselves. And it was a test, a very public test to see who would stand up and object and who would just let it happen.
See how it builds? Once the words become normal, once people get used to the rhetoric, the next step is to make it official, to write that hate right into the law books. Welcome to Rung 2, the keep out phase. This happened in 1935, when the Nazis passed something called the Nuremberg Laws. And this was it. This was the legal hammer they used to formally segregate Jewish people, to literally strip them of their citizenship and basic human rights. Overnight, you're an alien in the only home you've ever known.
And the way they defined who was Jewish was just chilling. It wasn't about your faith or what you believed. It was about your ancestry. They came up with this twisted blood math. See, if you had 3 or 4 Jewish grandparents, that was it. You were classified as a Jew and you lost everything. It wasn't a choice. It was a label they slapped on you and you couldn't escape it.
And just think about what that means in real life. These laws were designed to completely dismantle a person's life piece by piece. You can't vote. You can't marry the person you love if they're a German citizen. You're fired from your job as a doctor or a lawyer. You can't even own your own shop. It was a cold, calculated, legal way to shove an entire community to the very edge of society. So once you've legally isolated a group of people, once you've painted them as other, the next step up the ladder, well, it becomes frighteningly easy. We're now at rung 3. The break everything phase. Listen to this. It's from an American diplomat who was there, and it's just harrowing. He's describing what happened during Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass in 1938. This was the moment the hate that had been bubbling under the surface, sanctioned by the state, finally exploded into real physical violence right out in the open. But you know what the truly terrifying part was? It wasn't just the mob. It was the fact that the authorities, the police, the firefighters, they were ordered to just stand there, to do nothing. Imagine that. The people who are supposed to protect you are just watching as everything you know is destroyed. That sends a message, loud and clear. All the rules are gone. You are on your own. And when nobody stops it, when that line is crossed, that's the green light. That's the signal to climb to the very top of the ladder,
to the fourth and final rung, the one where the goal isn't just to hurt or to isolate, but to completely erase. Let's go back to this family for a second, the one from 1928. Remember them? Full of life, full of hope. This was taken long before that ladder ever reached the top. By 1945, only 2 people in this photograph were still alive. Just 2. And their story, that immense loss, was repeated again and again and again, on a scale that's almost impossible to wrap your head around. 6 million. 6 million Jewish people were murdered in the Holocaust. It's so easy to hear a number like 6 million and just go numb to it. It's too big. So let's try to put that in perspective. It's about the same as the entire population of the state of Minnesota. And we have to remember, these weren't just numbers. They were individuals from all over the world, a huge, diverse community from Europe, the Middle East, even Black Jews from Ethiopia. So, looking at all this isn't just about a history lesson, right? It's about understanding how something like this happens so we can recognize the warning signs today. So, what can we actually learn from this ladder of escalation? Well, there's this powerful idea that's basically the exact opposite of the bystander we talked about, the person who just watches. It's the concept of an upstander. An upstander is someone who doesn't just stand by, they stand up. They're the person who intervenes, who speaks out when they see something wrong. And really, this might be the most important takeaway of all. This entire playbook, this whole hateful ladder, it only works if people stay quiet, especially on those first few rungs. The whole system relies on good people just brushing off the jokes, looking the other way when the laws are passed, and telling themselves, it's not my problem. So you can see, learning this history is so much more than just memorizing dates and facts. It's about being aware. And it leaves us with one final, really important question that, honestly, every single one of us has to answer. On which rung of this ladder do we have a responsibility to finally speak up?